You'll probably notice that I refer to myself as a paradigm whisperer. And just like a horse whisperer or a dog whisperer, you can coax those animals to do something by communicating with them in a way where they choose to do it. And here you see a thumbnail from one of my October 2022 videos explaining what a paradigm is. Now you may know, but bear with me. But a paradigm is a perception of the way things are, even if they are wrong. It's the way that you see something, the glasses through which you view the world. It's your viewpoint or opinion. You can change your paradigm. That means I cannot change your paradigm. But as a paradigm whisperer, maybe I can communicate with you in such a way that you choose to see things differently.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
Hi, I'm DKWILL, and this is DK. We'll talk about it. And before we get started on the topic of thumbnails, the thumbnail for this video was created by a friend of mine, Pat, at DK of Dynasty on X. And I'll put a link for Pat's X page in the description as well. But Pat created these images you see here in reference to my use of the term gorilla grip. So you'll probably see these on the thumbnails for some of my videos going forward. And thank you, Pat. It's awesome work. Let's get into it. And to be clear, I'm not calling my audience animals. But this individual here, Pumpius, apparently had a similar view as mine. And I came across this X post here. It says, everyone's celebrating the CME launching XRP Futures, but that's the problem. The masses are cheering adoption, institution money, XRP to the moon. But here's the truth. Most people celebrating CME's XRP Futures don't understand what just happened. Let's break this down, why this is not bullish and why the ignorance could be lethal. Now, it's a thread. I'm not going to look at his thread because I'm going to tell you my point of view. Because, see, this is DK. We'll talk about it from my paradigm. And hopefully, when you hear my paradigm as a paradigm whisperer, maybe you will take a look at your own paradigm. Because, see, my thoughts are not mainstream. So much like Pumpius here, I didn't think the same of the CME group developments as others did. And in fact, in my prior video, I made mention of it. Let's take a moment to listen in on that prior video, and then I'll expound on it even a little more afterwards. It's not actually owning the coin, but see, if the institutions own the coin and they sell the futures contracts, and they can manipulate the price of the coin with the physical coins that they actually own. Now, you as an investor, you don't have any stake in what they own. The only stake you have is on the speculation on the price. And so I don't necessarily see it as a good way to invest in the crypto market. I see it as a trap to soak up more liquidity from retail investors. And if you like the content I'm providing, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And then come back for more DK Will Talk About It. And right here is the first place where retail loses money and adds liquidity, in a sense, to the market. The fee. They did not offer those futures contracts without a fee. And as you can see here, I'm just using a market order fee. And you can see it ranges from 0.01% to 0.26%. It says, for example, a market order is charged on FEMEX for the market taker of 0.06%. On Kraken, taker fees start at 0.26%. And on standard trading pairs can go as low as 0.1%. Bybit charges a taker fee of 0.1% for non-VIP users. Now let's talk about another way that retail becomes a source of liquidity, and probably one of the primary ways that retail becomes a source of liquidity, and that's the stop loss order. You notice it says make sure you use it in any financial advisor worth his salt is going to recommend that you do that, especially on a highly speculative, risky asset like a crypto asset, XRP, which is what it is now. But a stop loss order is an order placed with a broker to buy or sell a specific stock once the stock reaches a certain price. A stop loss is designed to limit an investor's loss on a security position. For example, setting a stop loss order for 10% below the price at which you bought the stock will limit your loss to 10%. And it's at that point that you would get what's called liquidated. And you would lose that 10% plus the fees that we've already talked about. And that's the end. You're not a concern anymore. Your 10% stays behind, and then you need to figure out how to make it back with another investment. And they give an example of a Microsoft stock at $20. 10% is $2. So it falls down to 18. If it falls below 18, it's automatic. You're activated. Your stop loss is activated, and you are liquidated. Now, to be sure, though, using a stop loss is not a bad idea if you know what you're doing. But that doesn't change the fact that if they manipulate the price downward, you're going to get liquidated. It says most investors can benefit from implementing a stop loss order. A stop loss is designed to limit an investor's loss on a security position that makes an unfavorable move. Now, I'm going to address that and pause for a minute because here's a comment from the paradigm of DKWILL. On DK, we'll talk about it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have zero liking for that phrase often used, only invest what you can afford to lose. I think that's the craziest statement I've ever heard. We don't invest to lose. We invest to win and to earn a return on our investment. So only invest what you can afford to lose means you go in with a loser's mentality. And that's, to me, is just another manipulative paradigm whisper from a bad side. No, only invest what you can afford to invest and then let it work and do what you want it to do. Now, nobody bats 100 or 1,000, I'll say. Nobody bats 1,000 in investing. And so you must determine how far you want to go, and a stop loss will help you do that. But you do not invest what you can afford to lose. You invest what you can afford, stop, full stop, period. You invest what you can afford to invest. And then you wait for it to win, not to lose. It says a key advantage, monitor your holdings daily. A disadvantage, a short-term price fluctuation could activate the stop and trigger an unnecessary sell. And that's the point I'm bringing out. And when you look at the price action on something like XRP, you can see that it's very easy to activate a stop loss within just a week's time. 262 is the high. 10% is 26 cents, right? 262 minus 26 is what? 236. Well, look where we are now. 235. That's just an illustration, but that's how easy it is for your 10% to stay in the market. If it's 5%, it's worse. And here's the other part. You recall one of my prior videos, I mentioned that the liquidations were a sign of prices going up. And that's the other thing they do with their actual holdings is manipulate the prices downward to liquidate all the longs. And now that's getting into margin. That's a whole nother story. Maybe not a story for this video because this video has already gone longer than I want it to go. But this triggered my thought to make a video, which I was going to do anyway. Because, see, I'm a paradigm whisperer. And so what I can say is don't get caught in the narratives. Get a working understanding of how you're investing. And yes, Bogey's here today. I'm sure you hear him in the background. And understand that oftentimes, when there's a major push for something to occur, like the CME Futures, it's most likely the narrative. And I just don't do narratives. I'm DK Will. This is DK Will Talk About It. And only because this video is going too long am I going to stop. And I'll talk about something again later, because I've learned that I can only get viewership for a certain amount of time. Nobody finishes the video. So I'll ask you, finish the video. Walk away from it and let it play in the background like black background music if you have to. But I'd like to see the percentage go up on how long my videos are viewed, so that way YouTube can continue to recommend them. And I'm going to try to keep them shorter so that it's easier for me to raise that percentage. But that's my part. The part I'm asking from you is please watch the video to the end, like, subscribe, and even comment. I'm DK Will. This is DK Will Talk About It. And I've talked about it. Have a wonderful day.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.